Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read Magic Tree House number 11, Lions at Lunchtime, S5 5027 by Mary Pope Osborne, chapter 6 through chapter 10. Speak and span. Be still, said Jack. Jack and Annie stood frozen as an elephant stepped out of the shadow. It waded into the pond and dipped its trunk into the water. Oh, wow, said Annie. Jack breathed a sigh of relief. An elephant wasn't going to chase them and eat them. Still, the elephant was huge. Let's sneak away, said Jack. But I want to watch, said Annie. Fine, said Jack. He was tired of Annie getting sidetracked. I'm gonna solve the riddle by myself. I'll meet you back at the treehouse. He turned to go. A spray of water rained down on him. He came from behind. He shouted with surprise and looked back. The elephant trunk was pointed straight at Annie. Cool, she cried. It's giving me a shower. The elephant sprayed her again. Then again, the mud slowly rolled off her face. Her braids, her t-shirt, her shorts, her legs, and her sneakers. I guess the elephant doesn't like dirty kids, said Annie, laughing. Her eyes were squeezed shut. Finally, she was clean and soaking wet. Now it's your turn, she said to Jack. Jack stepped forward and shut his eye tight. A blast of water hit him. It did feel like a shower, a strong shower. When Jack was clean, the elephant let out a grunt. Then he started to splash himself with water. Thanks, said Annie. Yeah, thanks, said Jack. I'm spick and span now, said Annie. When the sun dries me off, I'll be like new. Good, said Jack. Now we can get serious. He picked up his heavy pack. We have to figure out the answer to the riddle so we can leave this place before we run into real trouble. He looked around nervously. Where are the lions? He wondered. A small bird flitted near his head. Hi, Annie said to the bird. Jack turned back to her. According to the riddle, we are looking for something gold and sweet. What do you want? Annie asked the bird. The bird twittered and flew around Jack and Annie. Its feathers were dull gray, but it had a bright, happy manner. Annie, listen to me, not the bird, said Jack. The bird kept fluttering around them. She's trying to tell us something, said Annie. Jack let out a long sigh. You're driving me crazy today, he said, but I feel like she needs our help, said Annie. Maybe her babies fell out of the nest. Annie, you can't save every animal in Africa, said Jack. This bird is important, said Annie. Trust me. The bird darted toward the tree. It landed on a branch and cocked its head at them. She says, follow, said Annie. The bird headed into the forest. Annie started after it. Don't go in there, said Jack. You might run into... There was no need to finish. The bird and Annie had disappeared into the trees. A snake or a lion, Jack said to himself. Come on, Annie called. Jack moaned. He pulled on his pack and ran. The peanut butter jar thumped against his back. Chapter 7. Hi there. The forest was cooler than the sunny plains. It was filled with shadows and bird calls. Where are you? Jack shouted. Here, said Annie. He found her in a thick glade. Bright rays streamed between the trees. Green leaves and vines swayed in the dappled light. The little gray bird sat in a tree, twittering at them. Yuck, what's that? Said Annie. She pointed at a round brown thing hanging from a low branch. Bees buzz around it. If that's her nest, it's a pretty weird nest, said Annie. That's not a nest, said Jack. It's a beehive. Don't you see the bees? Yikes, said Annie. She stepped back from the tree. But the little bird darted at the beehive and pecked at it. What's she doing? Said Annie. The bird kept pecking at the hive. I don't know. Maybe she's as nuts as you, said Jack. Look her up in the book, said Annie. See if it says she's nuts. Are you kidding? Said Jack. That nutty bird isn't going to be in this book. Just look. Jack opened his Africa book. He kept turning the pages just as he thought. There was no gray bird in the book. Forget it, he said. Keep looking, said Annie. Jack turned one more page, and there it was, a little gray bird, beehive, and a tall painted warrior with a spear. I don't believe this, said Jack. Then he read aloud. The bird is called the honey guide. It's both a friend and a helper to the Maasai people, an Africa tribe known for their fierce fighting skills and bravery. Hi, honey guide. And he called to the bird. I knew you were important. Jack kept reading. The honey guide leads a Maasai tribe person to a beehive. The bird waits for him or her to scatter the bees and take the honey. Then the bird feasts on the honeycomb. That's cool, said Jack. They work together like the zebras and wild beast and gazelle. Yeah, said Annie, and she wants us to be her helpers. We have to scatter the bees and leave her the honeycomb. How do we do that? Said Jack. He looked back at the book. It didn't say how. Well, maybe we could wave those weeds at them, said Annie. She pointed to some bright green plants that looked like giant fans. Jack put his book and backpack down, and Annie pulled up the weeds. They waved them near the tree, and the bees scattered. Next, Jack grabbed the tree branch and jiggled it. The hive fell to the ground and broke open. Annie stooped and stuck a finger into the golden honeycomb. Yummy, she said. When she tasted the honey, try it. Jack stuck his finger in the honeycomb. Too, he licked off the golden honey. It was the sweetest honey he had ever tasted. Now the honey guide can get to her honeycomb, said Annie. Yeah, but she better hurry before the bees come back, said Jack. It's weird, said Annie. Honey is so sweet and good, but to get it, you have to go past a lot of dangerous bees. Oh man, whispered Jack. That's it. That's what? Asked Annie. Jack said Morgan's riddle. I'm the color of gold, and as sweet as can be, but beware of the danger that's all around me. What am I? I get it. Annie whispered. Honey, said Jack, nodding and smiling. That's it. We have answered Morgan's riddle. Let's go home. He stood up to leave. He gasped. Standing in those shadows was a tall man with a spear and a curved sword hanging from his belt. His face was painted in fierce bright color. Jack knew at once what he was. A Maasai warrior. Hi there, Annie said in a small voice. Chapter 8. Yum. The warrior stared back at Jack and Annie. We have been one of your honey guys, said Annie. The warrior was as still as a statue. We didn't mean to steal anything, Jack said. In fact, it's all yours. We have had enough. Lots of good honey still there. Annie said, smiling. Then the warrior narrowed his eyes. Is he angry? Jack wondered. I'm sorry we're trespassing, said Jack. We come in peace. In fact, we bring gift. He picked up his backpack and held it out to the warrior. The warrior still didn't move. Jack held up his book. Nothing. Oh, Jack reached into his pack. He pulled out the big jar of peanut butter. Peanut butter? He pulled out the loaf of bread. Bread. Hey, how about peanut butter and honey sandwich? Yum, Annie said, watching the warrior. The warrior stared at the food. We'll show you, said Jack. As Jack unwrapped the bread, his hands shook. Annie opened the jar. We don't have anything to spread it with, she said. Use your fingers, said Jack. Excuse me, Annie said to the warrior. I have to use my fingers, but they are pretty clean. An elephant. Just do it, Annie, said Jack. Okay. She spread the peanut butter onto a slice of bread with her fingers. At the same time, Jack spread the honey from the beehive on another slice. Jack and Annie put the pieces of bread together. Ta-da! Said Annie, handing the sweetie to the warrior. Warrior took the sandwich, but he didn't eat it. He just looked at it. Let's make sandwich for us too. so he doesn't have to eat alone. They quickly made two more sandwiches. You like this? Said Annie. She bit into her sandwich. Yum, yum. Jim took a bite too. He said. It was really good. Finally, the warrior bit into his sandwich. He chewed slowly. This is called a picnic, said Annie. They ate their sandwich in silence. When they finished it, Jack screwed the lid back on the peanut butter jar. Not bad, huh? He said. The warrior smiled. He had a kind, dignified smile. Jack and Annie smiled back at him. Then the warrior turned gracefully and vanished into the trees. Oh man, said Jack. Part of him wanted to follow the silent warrior through the shadowy forest. Already? Annie asked softly. Jack nodded. Annie started to go. Wait, said Jack. He put away the peanut butter and bread. We're going back to the treehouse, right? We're not going to do anything silly like rescue anything or chase birds, right? Those things aren't silly, said Annie. Don't forget that the bird gave us the answer to the riddle. Oh, right, said Jack. He looked at the little honey guide. She was on the ground pecking at the honeycomb. Thanks, Jack said to the bird. Have a good feast, said Annie. Jack put on his pack. Then he and Annie started out of the forest. When they passed the pond, they saw the elephant still splashing in the water. He lifted his trunk. He seemed to be waving at them. See ya, and he shouted, waving back. They rounded a bend in the river, then studied through the tall grass. As they walked back toward the treehouse, they saw the wild beasts in the distance. There was still some crossing the river. They saw a family of zebras grazing together. They saw lone giraffes walking from tree to tree, eating the leaves. And they saw a bunch of lions sleeping in the shadow of a tree. The same tree that the treehouse was in. Whoops, said Annie. Jack's heart gave a jump. So there they are, he said. Chapter 9, Tiptoe. Jack and Annie crouched in the tall grass. There was a big lion, 3 lionesses, and a bunch of cubs. I think they are sleeping, whispered Annie. Yeah, said Jack. But for how long? He pulled the Africa book from his pack and opened it. Found a picture of lions sleeping under a tree. He read in a whispery voice. After a pride of lion has eaten, they rest for a few hours. The other, what did they have for lunch? Annie broke in. Don't ask, said Jack. He kept reading, sensing that the lions are not hunting at the moment. The other animals graze nearby. If they can graze, then we are safe, said Annie. She started to stand. Wait, Jack pulled her down, not so fast. He peered around. The words in the book seemed true. The zebras and giraffes didn't seem to be bothered by the lions at all. They might be safe, but I'm not sure about us, said Jack. We need a plan. What if we wait till they leave, said Annie. That could take hours, said Jack. Plus, they might be hungry again by then. All right, said Annie. So here's the plan. We tiptoe, said Jack. Tiptoe? Yeah. That's your whole plan? Yeah, tiptoe to the rope ladder, said Jack. Very quietly. Good plan, Annie teased. Just do it, said Jack. He stood up slowly. Annie stood with him. They began tiptoeing through the grass very slowly. The lion flicked his tail. Jack and Annie froze. When his tail was still again, they moved again. Suddenly, high-pitched laughter split the air. Jack and Annie stopped. The hyenas were back. They were standing off to the side, watching Jack and Annie. Jack and Annie made silent monster faces and shook their fists, but the hyenas only laughed some more. Big Lion stirred lazily. He opened his golden eyes. Jack felt the hair rise on the back of his neck, but he didn't move an inch. The lion lifted his head and yawned. His giant teeth gleamed in the sunlight. The lion turned his head as he looked around sleepily. Jack held his breath as the lion's gaze rested on him. The lion sat straight up. His piercing yellow eyes met Jack's. Jack's heart raced. His mind raced. He remembered something he had read. Lions avoid giraffes. Jack looked around. There was a giraffe walking toward the tree that the magic tree house was in. Suddenly he had a new plan. Get under that giraffe, he whispered. Now you're the one who's nuts, Annie whispered back. But Jack grabbed the hand. He pulled her over to the giraffe and underneath it. The giraffe's legs were so long Jack and Annie could stand up under it. Jack's head barely brushed the giraffe's golden belly. The tall creature froze for a few seconds as she moved slowly toward the tree. Jack and Annie walked in the same rhythm as the giraffe. They got closer and closer to the treehouse, and closer to the pride of lion. The big lion had stood up. You watched them moving under the giraffe. When the rope ladder was just a few feet away, Jack and Annie dashed out from under the giraffe to the rope ladder. Annie scrambled up first. Jack followed right behind her. As they climbed, the lion growled and leaped at the ladder. The hyenas laughed. Jack climbed faster than he had ever climbed. He leaped after Annie into the tree house. Annie had already unrolled the scroll. The riddle was gone. In its place was one shimmering word, honey. Jack grabbed the Pennsylvania book. He opened it and found a picture of the Frog Creek woods. I wish we could go there, he said. Just then the giraffe stuck her head through the window. Bye, honey, said Annie, and she kissed the giraffe on the nose. The wind started to blow. Treehouse started to spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 10, After Lunch. Jack opened his eyes. His heart was still racing. Hyena laughed still rang in his ears. We made it, said Annie. Yes, said Jack. But it was very close. Jack took another moment to calm down. Then he pulled the Africa book out of his pack and put it with the other books. And he put the scroll with the other two scrolls. Giraffe was the true honey on that trip, she said, sweet and golden, with danger all around it. Yep, Jack said. Now we have just one riddle to go. Yep, said Annie. Ready? Ready! She started down the ladder. Jack followed. When they hit the ground, they walked through the sunlit woods. It's time for lunch, said Jack. I'm full from a picnic, said Annie. Same here, said Jack. What do we tell Mom, said Eddie. We say we ate our sandwich. Coming back from the store, said Jack. What if she asks why, said Annie. Just say we had a picnic with the Maasai warrior in Africa. Annie laughed. Right, she said, because we didn't want him to be mad at us for taking his honey. Right, said Jack. The honey from a beehive that the honey guy led us to. Right, said Annie. And that happened after an elephant gave me a shower. We scared off two hyenas. Right, said Jack. And after you fell into a mud hole because you're helping a million wild beasts migrate across the river? Right, said Annie. And all that was before a giraffe saved us from a lion. Right, said Jack. Jack and Annie left the Frog Creek woods and started up their sunny street. There was silence for a moment. Then Jack pushed his glasses into place. Better just say we ate our sandwiches on the way home from the store. He said, right, said Annie, and if Mom asks why, started Jack. Well, just say it's a real long story, said Annie. Right, said Jack. With like 10 chapters, Annie laughed. Good plan, very good plan. Crossed their yard, they went up the steps and through the front door. We're back, Annie shouted. Great, call them Mom. Ready for lunch? The end.